We're back. There's been a lot of bad rebrands this year. Probably one coming to mind right now for a lot of people. Cracker Barrel. Terrible. But they're not the only ones. There's been a few others that are not great. We just did a whole review of big rebrands from the year. People can go check that out if they want to dive deep on those. But it's brought up a question. Why do these brands have these issues with their rebrands?
How did they get it so wrong?
How did it go so wrong? What do you think?
I think it comes down to one word, Mike. The process. The process they use. Now, we weren't in the room. We don't know. We don't know everything they did to go from, hey, I think we should rebrand, to announcing it publicly. But clearly, there were some steps missed in some of these allegedly terrible rebrands. I don't think it's even allegedly at this point.
When you publicly go back to your original logo, it was bad.
Two that come to mind, Mike, from this year, and two that we've covered on the channel: Cracker Barrel, obviously, and then Jaguar, the luxury automobile company. And they both faced a ton of backlash. Cracker Barrel obviously made headline news and was just everywhere for, I don't know, a week or two. Everybody was talking about it. I think my kids were talking about it at school. But what happened? How did they get it so wrong? Well, Cracker Barrel in particular, obviously, and I think Jaguar did this as well, totally missed that they exist to actually serve their customers. And so when they did that, when they announced it, when they showed off, and clearly they were excited to show it off, their customer base hated it so much. And they hated it so much that they came out on every platform and they just absolutely lambasted it. And Cracker Barrel obviously saw that. The president of the United States saw it. I mean, he was even talking about it. And they did what you would never want to have happened. They actually reverted back to the old brand, which I think was the right move at the time, but very much the wrong means to get back to their roots. And in the process, they lost $100 million or something like that. Just tons and tons and tons of money. Lost a ton of trust. And it all came down to, you just did not follow a good process to rebrand. And I think one of the critical pieces that I noticed that they just didn't, either they didn't do any research with their customer base, or they just didn't find the right people to do that research with, clearly. Because if they had found 100 or even 1,000 of some of their loyal customers who love their brand, and they put that in front of them, I just can't imagine that they would have come out of that research thinking, this is going to be great. This is a great idea. And also, Mike, even deeper than that, even deeper than customer research, I think is just the heart of these brands. I think, we only kind of look at the surface of what happens with the logo, what happens with the, if it's a physical location like a Cracker Barrel, what happens with your menus and your seating and the artwork that you put on your walls. And it just doesn't connect to anything in the foundation of those brands. Jaguar and Cracker Barrel in particular, obviously a massive shift to more modern, very simplistic, straight edges, straight lines, getting rid of a lot of Jaguar gets rid of the Jaguar icon and the symbol. Cracker Barrel gets rid of the barrel and the guy sitting on the chair. And they just go to this kind of monochromatic, nothing interesting, flatness. And there's good principles there for design. We've talked about those things in depth. But when you lose the heart of who you are as a brand, you obviously run into really big issues, Mike. And there's a process for that. There's a process to discover, because not every brand just knows exactly who they are. We come in contact with a ton of people, a ton of brands all the time. That's hard to do. That's hard to do when you maybe are an owner or a founder, or you're in leadership at a company. It's not guaranteed or not automatic that you just say, oh, I know exactly who we are. I know exactly what we need to say. Here's exactly what we need. The rebrands are hard, Mike. They really are. We have to give credit maybe to some of these things. They're just hard. They take a lot of work, and it takes real human beings to work hard and flesh out a lot of hard things in a brand. And when you're not doing that, when you're not going through the hard conversations and you're getting the right people in the right rooms, what comes out, and you know, we've said this before, fake, forced, or false. Is that what we say?
Those are the three. Yep.
And I think we've seen a lot of that, not only this year, but in recent years. Mike, what are other parts of the process that perhaps on the surface we can kind of tell have been missed in some of these big rebrand fails?
Yeah, I think maybe settling in the process, saying, hey, that's good enough, right? Or for the sake of time, we just got to decide and take that first answer, second answer to the question, or, you know, first concept of the logo, second concept of the logo. Oh, that's good enough. And not pushing it far enough. And I think, you know, you can err on the side of, like, we love simplicity, right? We love, especially in the design and even in the messaging, being focused, being specific, being simple. But even in that principle, there's a level of simplicity has to be married with something that is true and interesting, right? And so if we're so simple that we don't have anything specific, and we don't have anything interesting, and we don't have anything that's actually true to the brand, then it's going to be a really, really hard, long fight to get it to make sense to people. You know, like the story goes that Nike's swoosh was originally a check mark, right? That's the story. I don't know if it's all true, but that's the published story. The team saw check marks on a piece of paper. Phil Knight was like, hey, why don't we just, as a joke, let's just make it a check mark. Designer went back to the table, was like, actually, kind of like that, but what if we change it? It can't just be a check mark, right? They could have just made it literally the angled V, check mark, right? And, you know, could you say, like, that tells the story? Just do it, you know, like, get it done. Yeah, I mean, check mark does that. But they added elements to it just by making that swoosh curve, taking the check mark and moving it into a space of energy and movement. It harkens back to perhaps wings, which gets into like the Greek goddess of Nike, of victory, and this idea of like often there's wing motif with that and movement. So it's like, could it have been simpler? Yes, it could have just been literally a check mark, but instead they added just enough to make it really tell their story at multiple levels, right? And really be iconic and interesting. And so it's very like design centric. I think you need to take that approach in everything you do of like, are we really telling our story the best that we possibly can in every element of our brand? And that means not settling. That means don't shortchange the process. Take the time needed. Go through tons and tons of concepts. If you're hiring designers, you're hiring an agency in that process to help you, they need to do that, right? They can't settle, and then you don't let them settle. And then, you know, at some moment, we see this sometimes, listen to the experts in the room, right? You know, and I hope, you know, you think of like Cracker Barrel. Did they miss a step with research? I'm kind of hopeful that that's actually the mistake and not, oh, we did the research and we just didn't listen to it. And everyone in the room, including the agency and all the marketers, said, who cares about those people, right? And with the feedback we got, we know what we're doing here, right? And just go for it. But then also, I think there's one more opportunity in process, and that is to actually take a stand in your branding, right? Have a point of view, be really specific on that point of view. And ideally, that's a point of view that resonates with some level of your current, you know, customers or brand. You're not jettisoning. I think if you kind of think about Jaguar, I think they thought maybe they were taking a stand, although I think their stand was nothing. Like, we're going to be the company about nothing. It's like what is happening here? It's literally Seinfeld, the show about nothing. So, have a point of view, and then hopefully that's a point of view that, you have some advocacy already within your customer base, within your staff, who are going to say, yes, that really is us. We need to be more focused on that. We need to be more clear on that. Everything about our brand needs to be about that. So doing the hard work to find that point of view, and then being willing to actually put a stake in the ground on that point of view. Those are hard things to do, and the bigger you get, the more money is on the table, the more risk you feel there is in that. You can settle. You can kind of settle for like, oh, we'll just not be clear about anything, and we'll just make it accessible to everyone, quote unquote. And in reality, it's like, if it's accessible to everyone, it's accessible to no one. Right?
It means nothing to anyone.
It means nothing, and it's not going to stand out. And I think, I look at a Cracker Barrel and I go, I kind of feels like what happened.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
They've lost their sense of identity, and they never really went and found it in the process.
Yeah, I think it's becoming increasingly more difficult, probably even impossible in today's day and age, to do something like that, fake, forced, or false with your brand, and just have it be okay. And everyone's just like, well, I don't really like it, but whatever. Yep. There are so many ways for your customer base of your brand to communicate with each other, to express their displeasure. And there's so many other options now. 30, 40 years ago, there was Pizza Hut, and now there's lots of other options. And 30, 40 years ago, there might have been 1 or 2 accounting firms in your town, and that's who you worked with. Now that is so shifted to such a national or even global marketplace now, where you don't have to go local. And if your brand does something that makes your customer base upset, they're going to express it online, and you're going to be in trouble. So now more than ever, authentic branding that follows a proven process to get there. Because it's not just like, oh, we need to rebrand and we need to make it authentic. All right, press the authentic button and we're good. No, that's a hard process to go through to discover what your brand actually believes in, why it's different, and what is its purpose in this world. It shouldn't just be to make money. If it's just like, we just need to drive profits, it's not going to last.
No.
You need to have a purpose. So those 3 things, Mike, personality, values, and what are you actually doing? What's the deepest why you can get to for your organization? Those things need to be discovered before you ever get into, designing a logo or picking colors or retooling your menu. And I think there's a lot of brands, we don't know what they're doing. We don't know the process they're following. A lot of times we don't even know who they're working with to do that. But the results speak volumes.